What's up, everyone? What is up? It is Monday. Officially and unfortunately. What's everyone up to? What's up, Dawn? What's up, everybody? It's been a long day. I was just, chilling in the backyard most of the day while I was working because now it's great weather and my Wi-Fi reaches just far enough to where I normally like to chill out. So, I've just been taking advantage of that. Even got to, I don't know if you saw on my Instagram and on my other socials and everything, but had for lunch, just roasted some hot dogs over the campfire with some tea, and then for dinner, I made steaks over wood fire with corn on the cob. Yeah, it was good. Pictures are on Discord and all that. What's up, Aaron? New cut? Not really a new cut, just haven't done my hair yet. Actually getting around to fixing my network, my server was getting download speeds measured in bytes a second. Well, you know, if you want to bring that full nostalgia, just start walking around the house, going... Give it the dial-up treatment, and then followed up when you know you run out of breath with, "You got mail." Give you that nostalgia. What's up, buddy?
I see you sneaking in the background there. What's up, little guy? How's my little boy doing? You had a good day chilling with me, huh?
So, while my dogs are here, I actually am prepping for my next project. I still got to edit a bunch of videos I've already recorded and stuff like that, but my next project outdoors involves my dogs. We're going to be comparing, talked about this on Discord and stuff, the new Apple AirTag Gen 2s, which my dogs are currently set up with in their new collars, and we're going to be comparing them to Meshtastic. So, I actually got 3 of these tags here for me to be testing, 2 for my dogs, 1 for me to do a full test, and we're going to program those and everything. They seem, based on the tinkering I've done offline, to be very similar to the SenseCap T1000E that I have over here. Same chip, LoRa, everything there. The main difference is it looks like the body is a little bit more polished, and it has 300 more milliamp battery life than this guy over here. This is 700 and this is 1,000. Bring one of these out. Haven't gotten to use them yet, but I noticed they had one extra button. But the interesting thing I noticed about these was, so this is the front of both of them. So they both have a button there. Lighting over here with, you know, the indicator. Like this is telling me it's charging. And then on the back of, on the front of this is the charging. On the back of this is where the charging is for this guy. But on the back here, there's another button to, reset the device and everything too. So this has 2 buttons, whereas this one only has 1. Now, an interesting thing I noticed is I was looking at the pinout for the power here. So as you can see, magnetic connector, okay? That's one of the things that's a little bit interesting about these devices. They do need that specific magnetic connector, but I also noticed the polarity is the same on, it's using the same connector. Same pinout, same pins, everything. As you could, I don't know if you just heard, but it actually turns on. So, that is interesting to know that they are that similar to the point that it feels like the difference may be down to the body and battery and firmware. So, we'll get into that as I do some more testing and tinkering with that over time. Yeah. But we can at least flash those tonight. Somebody just redeemed the treat for the dog. Where is Doggo? Oh, there you are. You enjoying the new couch, buddy? We got a new couch. Well, not new, but Came from the thrift store. Kev. Lamala. Come on. Good boy. Fucker bit my finger earlier trying to get steak. So ever since he's been really careful. Haven't we? So I should have you know that with the dog mesh-tastic approach came me needing to redo their vests as well, because I was rethinking how to do this. So they have these collars here. There's an air tag mounted here. So there's an air tag over here that's got 4 screws down on it. I'll get some better photos and pictures and everything when I do the actual video. And then I got these harnesses here that are tactical Molly style. The real reason why is not only do I want to stick on funny patches here, like, you know, John Wick, be kind to dogs, as a warning to not kick my dog, because I will come down like John Wick. But this is Ari's over here, and this is Barack's, because Barack is a large. And I needed a color coordinate to know. But it's basically the same vest for both. One's large, one's medium. The main reason I got these were Molly. Now, why did I care so much about Molly for these new vests that they have? Well, I had to think about these cards here. How am I going to attach these to my dogs? So obviously, you know, people would be like, well, you know, you can hang them like a tag there. These are kind of big and would easily knock the ground and probably get broken. So my thinking around this was Molly attachments. And by the way, we got a new Wardriver device. We'll go over that in a sec. That literally came in today. But what my thought was, here they are, Molly Velcro wallets. So the same company that makes the harness here apparently makes also some, they make a bunch of different little tactical styled items, but they make this Molly styled wallet, and this will be perfect for 2 reasons. One, it splits in half. Okay. So now, this side has, you know, the hook side of the Velcro. So I can put a business card in here with my information for my dog, stick it on the side. Typical, you know, finding things in case he gets off lead. Okay, that's cool. That's fine and dandy. But that's not the part that I really like. The part that I really like is they have this card holder here that I can then take the mesh-tastic, and I should, this is my first attempt doing this, yep, be able to just stick that in, and then I should be able to loop that in through the Molly and weave it in, so that way it should stay on their vests, even if it comes off. And then what I can do is I can at least put this lanyard on, figure out some way to rig it so there's a failover. So the idea being, when I go to take my dogs hiking, these GPS trackers will be on them, so if God forbid something happens and they slip off leash, they go chase off a squirrel, whatever happens, I should theoretically be able to track them within 3 to 5 miles, depending on the topology of the area here. Now, AirTag only is good about 100 to 200 feet, 100 to 200 feet in clear line of sight. This is 3 to 5 miles. So, if you're in the city, an AirTag is more than enough for most people. If you're doing a hike, mesh-tastic is probably going to be the better choice. And that's what we're going to be going over in some of my upcoming content. But, yeah. So, that should be pretty fun to figure that out. Now, we do have to flash these guys over here. And I do have to get them charged, of course, too. So, I will need to figure that out. Now, I am planning to take the dogs for a hike and such maybe closer towards the end of the month, to put these through the test. And it'll probably be me going one to a dog park, tracking the dogs, seeing if I can find them, because right now I can at least use my iPhone for the Find My feature on the AirTags, and then we'll be going to a state park that's about 45 minutes to an hour away. Hour 15? So, anyway, it's a place I like to go to often anyway that doesn't have any cell signal, where literally Yitz and I are going to have to go up with radio so that we can communicate with each other. And what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'm going to have him take the dogs and walk down the path. And then see if I can catch up to the, figure out where they are in 15, see how far they are, and then use GPS to track the dogs, and then probably be using GMRS for him and I to calm between us. Since my one license covers my entire household, that should be fine. I may just have to add him to a dependent or something like that, but I'll figure that out over the next couple of weeks. So that is a thing that is definitely happening, and we'll be tinkering with that. So that'll be a few weeks in the making. Expect that video to come out probably around June-ish, along with some of my DEF CON content and everything. Now, this was a device that I happened to stumble across, and this is apparently a war driving device here. It looks like it was 3D printed. Rather well, actually, mind you. But this is going to be using a, what's this, the ESP32C5, I believe it is, so that we can open that up and see if we can get that working. Now, what theoretically I will be doing with this device, so I used to do war driving back in the day. And for those of you not familiar with the concept of war driving, basically, it's people driving around, gathering information on various wireless networks around there. And back in the day when we had WEP encryption as the pretty common one, we used to crack these Wi-Fi networks and actually get Wi-Fi all over the city. Before, it was pretty common and you could just go to a McDonald's or a Starbucks and get their Wi-Fi. But nowadays, it'll be interesting to at least go drive around and see what Wi-Fi names I can pick up. And then there's a community correlating a lot of that information together. So, yeah, that should be a fun little project. The thing I was trying to also do with it was trying to see if there was a way that I could capture not only all the Wi-Fi networks, but Bluetooth. And then I can see what Bluetooth devices are in the area. Save money down there, one could eat, getting money in the daytime, even kind of when I sleep. Thank you for that Prime sub there, Marco. Don't know why the music cut out. Appreciate that. Came here with the receipt. So, appreciate you. Alright, so, we got the little war driving device here. Now, if I remember correctly, it doesn't come with an Arduino or anything in here, so I have to install that. Yep, that was right. We do have to install it. So they do have this nice little PCB here. And it's got a couple of wires attached to the antenna over down here. And then oh, I think oh, okay. There's a switch over here. I was like, did something drop? Yeah, one of the switches that they have over here. They should probably leave you some instructions to let you know. Okay, so this fits an 18650, and a SD card in here. I have 18650 cells upstairs. I can probably run up and grab that in a sec. Okay, so that antenna is the GPS, so it's probably using the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth directly off of this guy over here. So let's find the pin. Okay, ground. Okay, so it looks like it's top down like that. Okay. So we got our ESP32C5 in there. We go upstairs and grab a 18650 cell. I had a couple of extras. Hold on. Be right back. Should have brought them down. Okay. I do not know where my 18650 batteries went. Somebody moved them. Got a whole stack of them. Did I put them down here? Oh. Got a couple here. These weren't the ones I was thinking of, but they will do. I had some Molly cell ones that were 3,000 milliamp hours, and these are Samsung 25Rs. They should do fine. Alright, let's see. Oh yeah, I should probably catch up. Driving home. Can I ask you some Linux questions? Yeah, you can ask me. I've just been in a busy little hyper focus. I want to cop a Flipper Zero. Is it worth the projects is for the project experience? Not really. The honest truth is there's nothing unique that a Flipper Zero can do that you can't already replicate with smaller pieces of hardware. Generally, like with these ESP32s, the CSP32 can do a lot of what a Flipper can do, especially if you start adding a, whatchamacallit? The shields so that you can start doing more features and get sub-gigahertz and stuff like that. Okay. This is a snug-ass 18650 holder. Okay. And I mean, the device was... I mean, it was so engineered, because if you look, the USB port is slightly off, but it'll work, I think. May need to fidget with it just a little bit, maybe. Yeah, it should work. Or it may be the version of the driver that I had. Alright, let me get the switch back in place. Yeah, they could have probably documented this just a little bit better. Because, like, if I wasn't observant, I would have totally missed the switch that they had. Don't even tell you which orientation it's supposed to go in. I'll try not to... There we go. Okay, so you turn it on, and it's got a little screen there. I think it's turning on. That's from Just Call Me Coco LLC, by the way. I wonder if... I probably need to load up the firmware. You know, I should probably read the instructions. Okay. I think that's a good thing that it's turning on, at least. Although it could be just a glimmer of false hope. I mean, you passed help desk before? What do you mean past help desk before? Many, many years ago, mostly in my MSP days, that I do help desk. So the case from Call Me Coco, it's alright. Personal pet peeve. They made it out of PLA, which inherently isn't the worst material. I mean, I know a lot of 3D printing stuff is done in PLA. Maybe I'm just a snob, but I prefer PETG. But it is what it is. Okay. Ah, so this has an SD card slot over here. Okay. So with that, let's see, can I fit my USB-C cable? Kind of. So I kind of can plug it in. It's a little snug. Like they needed to shift the hole a couple millimeters to the right. If you have the hole facing you, shift it a couple millimeters to the left. At least as far as I see it. Okay, now... Yeah, this case could have been a little bit better designed. Because, like, once you slide the switch in, that one we were futzing with, it does not seem to want to be snug like it was before. I'm wondering if I had it installed upside down. We shall find out here in a second. Best way to get started for certificate? Just pick the cert you want to go with and go through it. That's how I did it a couple of years ago when I first pursued my CISSP as my first ever cert to tackle. You know what they say, go big or go home. Does this have like a little lip in here? Okay, so it did have a little lip in there. Yeah, there definitely needs to be some improvements in at least the original case design, but I know they open sourced this, so there's probably some remixes and improvements out there. Chances are I'll probably get around to doing one myself, but probably by the time I get around to hanging around with this guy, I'll probably have built my C5 cluster or something like that. I need to stop coming up with random projects. That's the thing I need to do. CISO worth it? Or do you mean the CISO? Sec Plus recommendation regarding studying materials. I only used the CompTIA official stuff when I did it a few months ago. But I did my Sec Plus after my CISSP, so Sec Plus felt like child's play comparatively. Right now what I need to do is get back onto my classwork, but I've been so busy between being picked for the speaker position for an upcoming conference and other stuff with my content and all that. Thoughts on senior SecOps position in PAM and encryption? I don't have any particular thoughts without knowing any specifics. Tried setting up Wazza on VirtualBox between two Ubuntu OSs and the agent. Didn't deploy. Any thoughts? Why using VirtualBox? One, VirtualBox can be kind of weird with the networking that goes on in there. So if you're doing it on Windows, try Hyper-V, and then you're going to want to build in... let's see. The agent didn't deploy. So if the agent didn't deploy, I mean, the agent should deploy, but that might also be an issue of the two boxes can't talk to each other. So they might need to have a virtual switch created, which you can do inside of Hyper-V. You just create a virtual switch the same way as you would in real life so that they all can see each other on the same network there. There's a whole other world to virtual networks that a lot of people don't really get onto talking about when it comes to virtual labs. That's generally why a lot of people tend to prefer doing a lot of their labs in dedicated hardware, because virtual machines add extra weirdness and situations you have to consider. Alright, let's see. Let's go to Just Call Me Coco. Okay, so this is where I found the C5 Wardriver. I literally found it by chance. I don't even remember how I came across it, but it's already sold out right now. And they do have flipper modules and everything. But it was like $69 for this little guy. Anyway, Bluetooth device sniffing. Oh, so it does have Bluetooth device sniffing in there. Unit is designed to accept input from 5 volt 1 amp power adapters. Do not use PD. Yada yada yada. So the idea is basically we can plug that into our car and drive around with it. Okay, so we need to go to their GitHub to find the setup information. Install firmware. Clone this repo. Okay, that seems fairly simple. Alright, so we're going to go to our source folder where we dump all of our source code in, and we are going to clone this repo. This is called ESP32. Okay. So what was it they said? Connections, update firmware, install firmware. Execute Python C5 flasher. Probably helps if I don't. Fat finger. Oh. Probably helps if in your documentation you actually tell us, you know, it's in the subfolder there. Alright. So it's going to go and download all the dependencies that they asked for. Although we may have found an error here. Install firmware, clone this repo, initial setup. Okay. Oh, so I can actually use this for a lot of my other repo stuff that I was planning to do. Wait, am I not logged into GitHub? I should be. Are you upgraded to 2404? No. Because 2604 is going to be here in a matter of a few weeks. There's the thing with System 76 releasing 2404, it honestly made no sense to me. I'm like, dude, this is literally gonna be out in a few weeks later. You're gonna have 2604 like a few months after that, so there's no point when 2404 is gonna be updated right around the corner anyway. What pathway would you recommend to getting into IAM? I mean, it's generally cybersecurity, but I think you would need mostly system administration for a lot of that stuff. Alright, let's go Claude to the rescue. Alright, let's see. So... ESP32... Oh, okay. Let's see if ESP32. Okay, now CD into C5, Python 3. You know what it may have been? It didn't like working from the root folder, but then again, no, it had this. So what are you trying to do? Oh, name 4 is not defined. So they may have had an error inside of... That was in a virtual environment, so that may not have been... Wait, why are you opening up a virtual environment for... I did not notice that VS Code does that, but okay. Thought that was part of it, but... Welcome to the wonderful world of open source where you go to do a project and you're like, hey, yeah, their shit's not working. Yeah, K12 IT director in Texas here. Nice. The stream elements worked all of a sudden. Yeah, it's kind of weird how it works sometimes. My best friend in 5 years scarred me for life. It looks like what the error is basically saying is that something inside of this at line 229. Yeah, they may have had a typo or something. File, line, and module main. File 147 in main. Name 4 is not defined. So something is wrong with this line here. The Colorama import fails, gets caught, installs the package, but never re-imports 4 and style the fixes to import after installation. Huh. May have found a bug. Yep. That was it. They had a bug. So we'll get this working and then I'll contribute a bug fix. There we go. Ready to flash these files? Yay. Erase flash contents before install. So they didn't do some troubleshooting on their stuff. Okay, so it's saying the deprecated ESP tool argument names in the port disappearing after detection. Fix the update, update the deprecated args after that. So what did it change? Wait for the port to stabilize. Okay, so it gives it some time to sleep for all of that. Okay. Add some modes. Okay, we turned it off, turned it back on. Okay, unplug it, turn it off, turn it back on. Try Zenbrowser. It's the same thing, basically, just different config. It's Firefox. Recently got your Test Out Security Pro certification. Not familiar with them, but congratulations. Really? Okay. Because it was already in the scene ports. One port already connected, use it automatically. Multiple ports already connected, lets you pick from a... Okay, but it's not seeing any of the devices. Okay. It's not seeing anything on any of those. And the TTY is not ACM. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know much about Linux. Had to switch to Pop OS, a diff distro, because Pop changed and none of my video games work. I don't have to tell you about that, because I'm on Pop and it's been working fine for me, but... Those are Linux's built-in RS-232. Hardware UR, it's always present, never relevant. Filter them out. Oh, so you clown didn't even use the... This is why I tell people, when people are like, oh, is AI gonna, you know, take over your job? No, because it just did something stupid. Okay, so now it's seeing the ESP32C5. Okay, so now we're getting the error again. So it's seeing it. This Pop Cosmic, I could see games not working properly. Yeah, and chances are, like, when people are like, it's Cosmic, well, it's usually Wayland that's actually causing the issues, not so much Cosmic. And Wayland, I mean, there's growing pains around there. Okay, we're getting progress. So... that's something, at least. But yeah, whoever wrote this, I don't think fully tested this out, unless there's something that they documented in here. No, there's nothing. Here's the baud rate, enumerates, and the port disappears before the actual erase runs. Aha! So apparently it disappeared before it could pop in. Okay, we're getting different codes at least. Switched to no bar because it was easier for me because I'm not good at fixing things when in console. I think my issue with Pop is that it wasn't as friendly as someone clueless about coding in Linux. Well, that's where Pop OS actually was designed to be user-friendly from the start. That's kind of always been their purpose. And Nobara, hold on. Nobara's a Fedora type, so... what do you think is a good resource to learn networking? I did not take in uni, but trying to learn. Going through the pfSense documentation and manual, it's actually laid out like a textbook. That's how I learned networking back when I started home labbing and built my own firewall and network and everything. Networking is one of those things that, yes, you can use like Cisco Packet Tracer and a bunch of other tools. But the problem is that there's a huge difference between doing networking in a virtual lab and doing networking in a hardware lab. You'll learn a lot more when you're actually building, configuring, tinkering, and doing all that yourself than just, you know, doing Cisco Packet Tracer and everything. It's great to learn at least some of the basics, but there's a huge difference. Okay, so you do not support the erase. Alright, let's see. Flipper Zero to mess around with. Flipper Zeros are fun toys, but that's pretty much all they are in most cases, is they are a fun toy. The unfortunate thing is that most of the people that I come across that are using a Flip Zero, aren't really using it for anything serious, and there's not much you can do with it to be serious. If you want a good MP3 player, just go get a old iPod. You can do it with an Arduino Flipper Zero, but I wouldn't recommend it. The Tangara is my favorite MP3 player, but right now they're not selling new versions of that. They're going to be releasing new batches, I think, in the next few months or so, but yeah. I mean, the Flipper Zero, mine is around here somewhere in my house. I haven't touched that thing in months. It's a fun toy at best. You can do a lot more fun things with, like, ESP32 boards and things like that, like what we're trying to do with this little Wardriver box over here. But... Okay, I just told it to go agentically through it and do a bunch of testing. I hate the fact that you have to yell at AI to tell it just to do basic things. Okay. Board is busy. Okay, so now I'm just telling it to run a bunch of commands against the board to see what the capabilities are. Maybe there's something I messed up. It's flapping. Okay. Ah, so it's boot looping. Modem manager is grabbing the port. Ah! That'll do it, I think. What the? Oh, caps lock was on. I was like, I know for a fact that's my password. There we go. Modem manager is stopped. Okay, so we're having it go through, check modem manager. When was I using modem manager? What was I using that for? Ah, I was tinkering with cell phone modems. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm playing with my C5 right now on this little Wardriver device. And then slapped a C5 in there. Alright, let's see. Nope. That's a new error. So we've gone on to a different error, so that's progress. What's up, Killa? How's it going? Thank you for the love. Doing PT networking hard, doing networking invert manager easy, doing hardware networking, uh-oh. Wait, no! Different error. So we've gone through 3 different errors. I am seeing it flash up, so that's some progress. Well, of course you didn't work there, because, you know... Wi-Fi ward driving or multi-frequency? Wi-Fi, primarily. Okay, connecting. Nope.
Lil underscore killer 718 is now chilling in the lab.
What's up, Wicked Smile? Oh, yeah. No, damn it. Okay, so it's thinking. Just came back from the TT. Oh, the TikTok. Thoughts on building a local AI system for my family to share, planning on using Tailscale. I mean, it definitely can be done. I'm doing something similar like that, but with Twin Gate instead of Tailscale. You can use my Franken LLM that I have in my GitHub to build up a lot of that infrastructure around there. Currently, it sets up something with Olama, and then there's embedded LLMs and all that. I'm going to enhance it a little bit to have VLLM and other support over time, but I have so many different projects I've been torn between right now. But Franken LLM is how I'm doing my stuff in my house. Got a C3 here in front of me playing with the CC1101 and GPS module. Nice. Now update main to restart modem manager. Wait, did you... Oh, so you made a whole function. And then... What the hell's this? Okay. Damn it! Another error. Okay, come on. See, this is why AI is dumb. Even it's like, hey, yeah, we're not running this function before it actually needs to be run. AI is gonna take over the world. AI is gonna change things. More like the amount of hair in my head. Oh, yeah. So it's making what executable? Flash.sh. Okay. I may have to tinker with this some more on my own. Have you seen the boards that will manage 12 ESP32C6 for Wardriving? Yeah, I have. Eventually I want to get around to them, but I wanted to start with just this one little guy. Particularly because I already have commitments and so many other spending things up until DEFCON and such. You're just on PC? I mean, yeah. Also, those 12C6 boards, they cost a lot of money right now when you're talking about 12 boards and stuff like that. I currently have a temp job and trying to pivot. Is there a way? I mean, generally when you pivot, angles are involved, but VS Code, hell no, you're cooked. Do you realize that the majority of developers in the entire world are using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code? An IDE is just that. It's a developer environment. It doesn't matter. Like, that's like saying, oh, you're using Notepad instead of Notepad++. Ugh, that's never gonna work. It'll work. You're just dealing with a bunch of different text files and how they're organized. You have your own stool? Dude, I mean, you do whatever you want to do, dude. But some of us, when we're dealing with our own stools, we just flush it down. We don't hold on to that shit. Literally. Yeah, gadget habits are hard. I don't need anything like that anyway. Yeah. I've used Linux on a Raspberry Pi. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of pretty much the only way you could do it for years until Microsoft said, yeah, we'll do Windows on ARM. Even AI is dumb. Then you said it can't even add about chicken plays. Better IDEs for Linux, and the reason VSC's ass is because of the insane telemetry. You know that there's Codium, which literally is Visual Studio Code without the telemetry. Do you realize if you're one of those people... Let me put it this way. If you're the type of person that's going around bashing people for IDEs, you're the same kind of developer that's pretty much worthless because you say you can't do any of your work unless you're on this specific operating system. If you're a developer and can't swap between IDEs and operating system types for pretty much the majority of your work without certain edge cases like Xcode or such, that says more about your skills and capabilities than it does about mine. And the reality is, when you go into many workplaces, guess what? They don't give a fuck what your preferences are. Company-approved software is company-approved software. You can make whatever argument you want, but the reality is, a tool is a tool. As long as you're using a tool to get the job done in the right ways, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter if, you know, you have this preference or that preference. Rather use any IDs than go to jail for using VS Code. You're not gonna go to jail for using VS Code. Ubuntu 1804 for some reason. Personally only code in VI on an Amber VT100 attached to a fax system. Okay, Grandpa. Wheels you back into the retirement home. Can tell people they build their own VPN. I mean, I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, yeah, you can build your own VPN. I may have to tinker with this some more, because for some reason, something is effed. At least in their script. Or I wonder if it's something with my environment, because I changed quite a few things when I was dealing with cell phone modems and other things. I have a bunch of other laptops I can throw it on that are clean. Two heads are better than one to get the job done. That was a great line in the EF. That's the only way to code. COBOL and Fortran for the win. Don't forget to column align your things. AMD user here. We helped Linux as open source as it is right now. Yeah. I like my AMD CPUs. I'd like to use an AMD GPU, but the problem is everything is pretty much CUDA optimized. Apple is good chip, but OS is stopping from reaching its full power. The Apple M series CPUs, I definitely say they're capable. They're not worth the price, though, that they charge at. But with that being said, yeah, Apple Mac OS is definitely holding back the capability of Mac, and I've said that for many years. Like, the fact of the matter is, Apple wasn't even properly getting behind virtualization technologies for many years. Like, I remember you had to use VirtualBox as your virtualization software before they started getting, what was it, the UDM or whatever the thing they're, UTM, or they have some technology they released a few years ago. Anyway, with that being said, okay, that's not working the way we wanted it to. Nope. But yeah, as I was saying, with the Apple Mac OS, yeah, they've been behind the ball for a lot of different things in terms of the operating system itself for many years. Like, I don't understand why Apple charges developers to be able to use Xcode. That makes no sense. So you're charging your developers to make software that you need your Macs in the first place to be able to create. That makes no sense. Microsoft, they have some certifications you can pay for, but you don't need to pay Microsoft to make applications that work on Microsoft products. Finally got your R node connected to my computer. It's fighting me all this time. Yeah, you'll have to show us more about the, you're talking about Reticulum, right? You can go to jail because of VSC telemetry. They know what you're coding, bro. No, that's not how it works. Could you please save some tinfoil for the rest of us in society? If you're that worried, let me put it this way. You're worried about telemetry, and you're talking from TikTok. I want you to think that one through there, buddy. If you're that worried about telemetry from an open source software IDE, and you're complaining about it on TikTok, that says more about you than it does me, buddy. What is the best village at DEF CON? Are you going? I don't know if there's like one specific village, but yeah, I'm going. I'm helping out a village this year. True, we made our own open source version of VS Code from VS Code itself. The code is in front of us. Yeah, what is it, Cursor? That other IDE that's pretty well known is based off of VS Code. In fact, a lot of these IDEs that people, you know, go around using and say they use instead of VS Code, when you look into their software licensing, it's based on VS Code. There's even a version of VS Code somebody made called Codium, like there's Chromium, which has all that telemetry stripped out, which comes in Parrot OS pre-installed. Just wait till you make a brute force tool of Microsoft slides in your emails. That's not how it works. Tell me you have no idea what telemetry actually means, insofar as a software that you're running on your machine collecting usage data without saying you don't. And for the record, I have penetration tester friends that use VS Code all day. They've made a lot of different penetration testing tools. One runs his own pen testing company. He's submitted multiple CVEs. I think what people forget is that when it comes to software, merely the creation of the software is not illegal in and of itself. The law is primarily around intent. After final 8 years, we finally got Proxmark 5. Hey! Just in time for Proxmark 6. I wish I could learn code like HTML, CSS, and JS, but my memory to learn things is trash. Okay, you probably triggered some people by saying HTML is, Oh, well, they didn't say a programming language, but yeah. I'm considering Nobara OS for my daily driver, so that way I can leave kernel level anti-cheat. Nobara is not going to change anything about that. Kernel level anti-cheat, Nobara is not fixing. No Linux distribution's fixing the specific issues with kernel level anti-cheat. Nobara is using the same Linux kernel as the rest of the Linux distributions out there. It might have a few tweaks and customizations, but Nobara is not going to magically make kernel level anti-cheat dependent games work on Linux. That is a developer issue. And there are plenty of anti-cheats out there that work on Linux, and kernel-level anti-cheats that have been enabled for Linux, like Easy Anti-Cheat famously for a while was one of those ones. It's a checkbox for developers. Halo Master Chief Collection as Easy Anti-Cheat works just fine. That's the issue with kernel-level anti-cheat is not something that you just go onto a different distribution is going to fix it. That's a developer issue. That's on the developer. And that's not, and before anyone says, well, this is a limitation of Linux, that's not a limitation of Linux either. This is developers coded their software to need such invasive hooks into your system that it will not run without having system level, not even system level access, basically reaching down into the hardware. In many cases, now that they're talking about IOMMU requirements on certain kernel-level anti-cheats. Any advice for Linux? Try it. That's why Google phone and other phone are getting popular. Apple losing money. Apple's not losing money. And Google phones are popular merely because, well, Apple isn't selling software, they're selling hardware. That comes with software. Google is selling software, and they happen to also sell hardware for that software. It's the same argument as like, well, why was Betamax versus VHS? Why did VHS get more, was more prolific than VHS? There's a multitude of reasons, but one of the big reasons specifically in availability was VCRs were made by many manufacturers. Sony initially controlled the hardware production of the Betamax. More proof Apex used to work. They made it not work. That's right. We even used to do gaming on Linux streams back in the day with Apex. I have Apex in my library from when it was working on Linux. Now it doesn't. Telemetry is user data collection without us even asking them to collect it. Primary reason why I switched to Linux in the first place, second being bloat. Yeah. You taking defer and OSINT. I mean, OSINT's just, looking through technologies and stuff. I mean, looking, information out there. Defer is just digital forensics and, what, incident response? I mean, I don't know what specific things you're asking about in terms of that. It's just like kind of like saying, yo, what's your opinion on kitchens? Okay? Not trying to ridicule you by any means, but I'm just saying, coming in and saying, hey, any take on differ and OSINT is like saying, yo, any opinions on cooking? How about being a mechanic? Okay? I'm not trying like make funny. I'm just saying that's just, you have to understand that's kind of where it sounds like coming to me. Is the iMac 2019 a good device? I think it's an alright device. For basic things these days. Is RCS secure? What's RCS? God. Oh, we're talking about the Google. Is that the Google chat standard, all of that stuff? If that's the one I'm thinking of. So, here's the thing. Insofar as is RCS secure for messaging, the honest truth is a lot of people seem to get their wires crossed. RCS is not secure out the box. Let me explain before y'all come at my throat or anything. RCS does not have end-to-end encryption as a required built-in standard. So for the people that are like, well, with RCS on my Google Pixel, I can message people and it's encrypted. That's an optional feature that you have to enable by using, I think, Google Messages, and you have to be messaging from a device that has encryption enabled to a device that has encryption enabled. So it's encryption as an option, but not by default. Whereas you compare it to, say, something like iMessage or Signal, your messages, by default, no matter what, are end-to-end encrypted from your device to their device. But RCS, so let's say I have an iPhone over here. You have a Google Pixel that is capable of RCS encrypted messages. If you send me an RCS message to my iPhone, that is not end-to-end encrypted. But if you send that message to someone else that has RCS encrypted messaging enabled, then that message is encrypted. So RCS in and of itself is not secure out the box. Is it maybe more secure than like general texting where you can potentially intercept things over the air, things like that? More likely, yes. But it's not, I would say, as secure as, say, messaging someone iMessage or Signal. Thank you for the cheers, the biddies over there, DJ Spartacus. I do not know why the receipt didn't print out. It's supposed to print out a receipt there. But thank you for that. How you doing, buddy? Let's see. HTML. HTML is not a program. So, yeah. Have you hacked Pokemon Go before? No. Well, back in the day when Pokemon Go was a hot thing, the most you would really care about doing is GPS hacking. I've done that before, but, I mean, I'm just not a, okay. Hold down the boot button on the board, plug in the USB cable. But I'm just not a big Pokemon Go, person. Never really been. I am definitely going to have to play with this a little bit more. Something's up with this guy. I'll have to tinker with it on my laptop upstairs and bring it with me to work. But yeah. Okay. Pairing CrowdSec with Suricata overkill? No, two different things they're doing. Suricata is IDS IPS. CrowdSec is also IDS IPS, but I'm using it through crowdsourced lists. So CrowdSec, in my PF sense, is going and collecting lists that have been reported from others that are also using CrowdSec for these malicious attackers so I can proactively block things. So I'm using PF Blocker NG, Suricata, and CrowdSec all on my PF Sense firewall. And I haven't even gotten into the honeypot yet to feed data into my PF sense and stuff based on WASA to start doing actions and everything. I'll have to tie that into N8N. I need to get back to working on that. What's your opinion on the copy fail and dirty frag? By the details, they sound like a feature more than a bug to me. You're gonna find a lot of interesting, CVEs coming out of the woodwork. I didn't look too much into the dirty frag one, but I know the copy fail. The biggest issue with it was right now Iranian state actors are trying to go after different businesses, and Canonical has been one of their targets. So the update servers, the Launchpad PPAs that are usually used for Ubuntu system updates, have been timing out. They've been under a sustained DDoS. So it's been an interesting few days because it's been patched, for example, but people can't download the patch to get it fixed. Oh, the gameplay? Oh, you mean the coding. Oh, yeah, I switched them. Wait, CrowdSec as in PF Sense package? Yeah, CrowdSec actually released their stuff many years ago. So I actually met the CrowdSec team at DEF CON 31. I'll show you in a sec. Well, it's kind of crammed in there. They gave me one of their stuffed animals for the alpaca, the cool alpaca. So if we go into CrowdSec over here. If you're not familiar with them, CrowdSec, really great platform. I actually recommend them. They're like fail to ban on steroids, basically. They do have an enterprise plan, but they also have an open source solution. So if I can remember resources, was it? Hold up. CrowdSec block list. Was it block list? Hold on. Trying to remember because they changed their site around. Was there documentation? Yeah, they really moved this all around. Hold on. Solutions. Our data, resources. Nope. Come on. What's annoying was I was here a few weeks ago, and I remembered exactly where to go to. Here, I'll just do it this way. See, I knew it was somewhere in their documentation. So, yeah. PF Sense has, they have a package, but it's not in the repository, so you have to actually follow these steps to download the package, and then you'll have a window in there for it to actually grab all the stuff. So, you can have feed block list to the PF Sense firewall, log processor, local API, and then, yeah. So it's actually very, very capable. You can have that built running right inside your PF Sense at the edge. Yeah, CrowdSec is freaking amazing. They are one of the most slept-on security products, I think, for a lot of people, especially in the networking side. Yeah, definitely cannot recommend CrowdSec enough. I've had great successes with it. Actually, let me see if I can pull up my dashboard for my CrowdSec so you can see. I actually made some Grafana dashboards tying into my CrowdSec stuff. Was it 210, 100? Okay, so this is my home lab here. So as you can see, I have all these different dashboards here for my Grafana. I still have to build out my Sim Alerts one. We have system stats. I still got to work on the NVIDIA GPU monitor one. And there's Unify. There's all these dashboards here, all right? Let me make sure I'm not showing anything that you shouldn't see. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, this is all my CrowdSec information straight out of my firewall. So as you can see, these are all the entries that get added from CrowdSec, what's been deleted, what time this happened, things like that. Now, if there are any decisions that are made, like it blocks something based on what it sees or that, it will actually notify. But as you can see, 112 ban decisions, 288,384 events. That's just downloads, uploads, whatever. Bouncer events, API calls.
Fiery Colds is now chilling in the lab.
Hey, thank you for the follow. But yeah, you can do a lot with this. There's a lot you can do with like Wuzza and things like that. Like, yeah, so I have a lot of cool things. Let me see if I can show you one of my most recent things that I have worked on a bit. Yeah, this should work. This is my overall top-level view of my entire network and the security issues going on. I built this dashboard. You can find all these, by the way, in my GitHub if you want to like poke at how I did different things. So this one should be found in the the Docker Sim stack. There's also pfSense Sim stack, and then there's Jump Cloud Wuzza Bridge, which is a bridge that I made between Jump Cloud IDP and Wuzza. And this is all going through Wuzza. So as you can see, like, these are the top blocked IP addresses from the source. I'll have to dig into why that's doing that, and, you know, different things going on. But you can see pfSense firewall actions, blocker pass, Wuzza alerts based on severity. So, ton of lows. And then you can see right over here, Suricata event timelines like you were talking about. So you can get the entirety of Suricata going in. I'd show you the Suricata dashboard, but that shows a lot of sensitive information. As you can imagine, a lot of these dashboards can show a lot of sensitive information. But I even have it pulling in Office 365 events, so it actually ties into Office 365 and Jump Cloud and all of these different systems. So the whole idea is I have my Eye of Sauron that once this is all built, I can then start correlating different activities across the entire network for lateral movement. One of the final pieces is I haven't really built into the network yet because I have to build another physical box for, besides the honeypot with AI capabilities for LLMs in there to do a high interactivity honeypot to gather all that information and feed it in. I want to make a Zeek box. So the idea is I want to have total ability to see not only what is going north and south, but east and west in my entire network. So what's north and south, for those of you not familiar, is when you're networking and you hear the term, people are talking about north-south versus east-west movement. So north-south is going in and out of your network. So that's your WAN to LAN connectivity. So everything going in and out. East-west is lateral movement inside of your network. So going from one VLAN to another VLAN, that's lateral movement. So we want to prevent lateral movement wherever possible for security reasons. Because what happens a lot of times is people will get access to the systems, and I'm simplifying this a little bit, obviously. And then what they will try to do is get more and more access. So how they do that is they will try to raise their privileges or move laterally to get more privileges. Why am I using Flirt browser? Because I like it. I don't know why that's such a, I don't know why, I don't know what else you want me to tell you. Other than, well, because I like it. I use Internet Explorer because I am a masochist! Could you brief how you set up Unify Polar also? Unify Polar was really, really straightforward. I do need to make a video talking about how I set things up. So in my case, I have Unify Polar as an entire Docker running on the same server that this is in, but it's in a different subnet. Anyway, essentially what you need is you need a server, whether it's Docker, whether it's, another Raspberry Pi or whatever, it needs to be set up there. Unify Polar will then talk to Unify, the controller, with a user that you set up for it. Basically, it's an admin read-only username. It has admin rights, but it's read-only. You program into Unify Polar the credentials, the IP address, the port that this is all mapped to, and basically what it does is it logs into Unify and pushes all of that data out through a couple of ways. So either one, it will connect in and send it over InfluxDB or Prometheus. Now, I personally use InfluxDB. I find for time-based telemetry, it works a little bit better. The difference is that there's a push versus pull method, if I recall correctly. InfluxDB pushes data to the database, okay? So it's just grabbing it and throwing it right at it. Whereas a Prometheus is pulling that data, if I recall correctly. And I like Prometheus. Prometheus I like for my analytics and stuff of my systems. So if we go into like, where are we? Yeah, if we go to like the node exporter full over here. You can see I have a lot of stuff. I have it even organized over here, so I can go to like TwinGate ZTNA, and I can find out all the statistics of my machines from here. So let's say I want to see whatever's going on with the storage disk at any given time. This is what Prometheus gives me the ability of. InfluxDB I find is a little bit better for networking stuff. Now there is an asterisk I want to put to that, because sometimes certain stuff it would be better put in an open search database or that, as I found out, and you'll look into some of my systems and you'll see that I've carved them up that way. Yeah, that has more to do with just knowing the nuances of all the data and how much data that you're throwing at it. Okay, so with that being said, set up with InfluxDB, and then that's all it does. It has that data, pushes there. Then what Grafana is going to do, which is what this is right here. Grafana is a whole other server, either Docker or whatnot. In this case, it's all on one Docker box. And that Grafana is going to tie into that database. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about here without showing too much. Yeah. So if we look at... Yeah, this should do. So if we look at my data connections here, you'll see that I basically have connected it to everywhere. So as you can see, these are all local to this machine. The indexes and everything, so you can see OpenSearch Hot for PF Blocker NG, PF Sensor, Ikata Active, Syslog, Unify, WASA alerts, WASA vulnerabilities, all of these are here. All Grafana is doing is just reaching out to these different databases and then plotting that data. That's really what it comes down to. It's very straightforward. If you read Unify Polar's documentation, it makes a lot of sense. I generally prefer InfluxDB for Unify Polar, but some people prefer Prometheus. That's basically what it comes down to. My pleasure, UN. Happy hacking. I'm going to need to get more RAM for my firewall. Yep. Yeah, once you get heavier into firewalls, you don't realize how much memory a firewall can use. My firewall is 32 gigabytes of memory, and I am using how much memory am I using? I am using 30% of that. I am using roughly 30% of 32 gigabytes, which comes out to roughly 10 gigabytes. That's why I generally tell people, if you're, like, you can make a pfSense firewall for like 4 gigabytes of RAM, and that's generally overkill for most people. But if you're seriously trying to do a home lab of a firewall, 8 gigabytes minimum. 16 recommended, 32 if you can swing it for a firewall. But again, that depends on how much you're doing with it. A lot of that is suricata on all the different VLANs that I have running. Would you recommend getting a Framework 13? I haven't personally used Framework. I hear good things. I have no complaints about them. I personally use Tuxedo System 76 and MNT. And I'm looking at Nova Custom to replace my Purism laptop. Not that I have anything against Purism for their laptops, but they haven't updated anything. But anyway, I have no complaints with the Framework 13. They look nice. I can't justify buying another laptop for myself. But I am looking at getting the Framework laptop with RISC-V, but that would be more of a development project, and I can't really justify spending money on that because that'd be a device that's like, oh, cool, shiny, play. And then it gets dust for a while. I'd probably spend the €750 for the MNT Pocket Reform motherboard upgrade that I need to do before I would spend the money on a Framework 13 personally. But if you are looking for a laptop, I don't see why not to get the Framework. I do like the idea that you can upgrade the entire laptop and fix it too. In conducting OSINT for threat intelligence, how do you validate information from social media? The only way you can really validate information is to cross-confirm from different sources, but sometimes when it comes to social media, you can't always confirm it entirely, and you just have to, take it by the fact that the average person puts things on social media. That's just all there is to it. But I'm tempted to get a Raspberry Pi and hardwire it to the Raspberry Pi, then run a router on the Raspberry Pi, which you can then recommend it on the R-Node page, because the router runs everything and R-Node is just a KISS device. Oh, nice. Get on the net data. Alright. I have a bad laptop, I use it for cybersecurity and play Minecraft and need a good OS. I mean, in these parts of the internet, you're gonna get everyone telling you Linux. It approximately how many... I don't have a firewall. I use a browser inside a QEMU environment. Come hack me. Alright, let's see. Public versus private versus government, contractor, company work. What do you think is a better space? It really depends on what your goals are. Generally, I prefer the private space, but I've also talked to friends and said, depending on how things go, I wouldn't be opposed to working for the state government in my late 30s to go get the pension system. So the great thing about a pension system versus, like, say, 401k. A 401k is okay as long as you're responsible and stay on top of it and keep building that, because that's your money, and you can actually work that money down. Whereas a pension, that money is guaranteed by the government. You will always get that no matter what. You just pay into the system, and then there's that. But a 401k, yeah, you're going to have to be really good with your money. And the problem is a lot of people are not that great with their money. And to add insult to injury, a lot of Americans haven't actually factored in Social Security cutting down benefit payout in their retirement plans. I actually have that calculated in with my financial planner to between Roth IRA, 401k, and everything. I should have an okay life to retire from, but we'll see where we go from there. I don't plan to be retiring anytime soon. And even if I do happen to be fortunate enough to be able to consider retirement in the next few years, I'm never going to fully retire. You're just going to see me finishing side quests in my life. Mine is like 4. I still haven't figured out why my server is getting a really poor connection, but I'm pretty sure it's actually the AP. For what? I gave up on that for now and went to the gym. 1 terabyte of RAM at one point. Yeah, I would love to have that availability. Storage in my home lab is becoming a problem. I've used Ceph before. I personally have not. I've had friends that use it. I keep tinkering with the idea of eventually getting to it. I'm running into an issue with storage as well. What I was considering doing was, I have an 8 terabyte NAS, usable 8 terabytes, and I have like 2.5 terabytes left. I want to get a box that I can grow with, and I was thinking of building a true NAS box instead of my Synology. And TrueNAS has an OEM that I saw they sell for like a few $1,000s for the box, and it's a 12 bay NAS. So imagine I could get the NAS, add drives as I need, and it can rebalance everything out. So I start out with like 4 10 terabyte drives. I probably would have, I forget what the math is, but I'd have like what, some like 30 terabytes usable, I think, all in all. And then if I ever run out of space again, just add another drive, and another drive, and another drive. And just do that for several years. Personally like Lenovo ThinkPad. Lenovo's nice. MNT Pocket Reform looks so adorable. Oh, I love mine. I got a Framework 13 mainboard for $60, but I'm considering spending $430 on the rest of it. Battery display. Not too shabby, but boy does it run warm. I mean, for $430, that's not a bad laptop. I guess I saw you're on Pop OS. Are you on a System 76 box? No. I have my own desktop I built. I have a System 76 laptop that has Parrot OS on it. But my Tuxedo laptop has Pop OS on it. It's weird how every device that I have in this house, other than the systems that are not, the devices that are System 76 don't use System 76 as operating system, but the devices that aren't probably are using it. And I have 2 System 76 keyboards as well. I have the Launch Heavy over here, which I recently added their new keycaps they released. But yeah. Eight-year network admin looking to move to Cybermore. Good luck on that. It's an interesting field right now for a lot of people wanting to switch over. Can you give me 3 resources to start with? A lot of it would just be home labbing, to be completely honest. I'm trying to think. 3 resources. Home labbing would be a big resource, in general, to learn a lot of the concepts around cybersecurity, but I don't know if I have any, like, books or anything, because, I mean, problem with books, by the time they're written, they're already out of date. There's also roadmap.sh, which is a great way for you to plot out your roadmap and everything, to get into the field. Yeah, and then I think you can try out, what is it, Hack the Box to try some different labs and stuff like that, but home labbing is generally where I recommend a lot of people. Hold on, what is that? What are your thoughts about WDAC? You talking about the Windows Defender thing? Or are you talking about something else? You gotta forgive me. Acronyms. There's so many of them. I have to look up acronyms all the time. Because it's like, we can say the same acronym and mean different things. I've done that a lot. Yeah, the Windows Defender application control. I mean, it's really no different. The Windows Defender application control, it's really no different than what a lot of businesses have been trying to do in enterprise for a while. So, in my MSP days, we used to have a program called Threat Locker. At my current job, we use AirLocker and Power Broker to allow people to run applications. So, one of the big problems in enterprises is users are installing applications without approval and running them. So we need to figure out ways to shut that down. So, yeah. That's where a lot of that comes into play. Expecting someone like you to retire is like expecting a developer to give up development to become a director. It takes a special kind of personality to be a tinker, and that doesn't go away with age. Pretty much. I also plan for no Social Security, but I feel like a U.S. without Social Security will be worse. Oh, it definitely will be. Just look up all the wondrous years that Donald Trump wants to revert us to, where he calls it the Golden Age, or was it the Gilded Age? Yeah, it was not as glamorous as people really put it out there to be, unless you were rich. If you were rich, it was great for you. You know how bad the systems were back in the early 1900s and late 1800s when the most wealthiest people were pushing for social reforms because they themselves, paraphrasing here, said it's going to get to a point where this is going to be untenable and they're going to be going after our heads if we don't, do something. I think a lot of that came about because they also saw the Bolshevik Revolution and they saw that, yeah, they outnumber you. On Ceph, it's amazing for durability, but it has increased complexity and a little slow. It can be. Is Ubiquiti the best Wi-Fi? I wouldn't say the best. I think it's one of the best options for a prosumer, Soho, SME type hardware. Personally speaking, I would say that I like Aruba a little bit more, but I don't got Aruba money for the Aruba stuff that I'd probably deploy. Ubiquiti is probably one of the best all-around companies for people doing networking. But once you start going into the bigger boy networks, Ubiquiti is not enough. But they definitely are getting there. I use Ubiquiti, access points, and switches for my stuff. What advice would you give to beginners specializing in cybersec? I'm in my sophomore year. The human is always the biggest problem. The human is always the weakest chain link, the weakest link in the chain. You have to generally... The problem is a lot of times when I deal with cybersecurity, a lot of people overthink these complex systems and things like that. Generally, security is broken by one schmuck of a user bypassing security because it's more convenient for them. That's what it comes down to. And the majority of cybersecurity compromises are due to phishing. So ultimately, the human is the weakest link. The human in the loop, whether it's customer service or that, they're the biggest issue. And a lot of your biggest issues in cybersecurity are solved by training users. And I will also give you a controversial piece of advice. Phishing training and phishing testing is not fucking training your users. Mandatory compliance training once a year, having them click buttons to do phishing education, is not educating your users. That is checking a box for HR and your insurance company. That's not doing anything. I use pfSense on one side, on one of my portable lab stacks, running on a Tiny, using the Wi-Fi for the WAN side, and Eth as a LAN side configured as so it's Wi-Fi agnostic. Doing the same on an old Pi stack with OpenWRT at the edge. Nice. I'm playing with ZFS for a bit, and managing drives and adding VDEVs is annoying to say the least. However, NAS with Copy Party has been more than useful than I expect. Can recommend. Yeah, ZFS is nice. Pretty funny. I have a Lemur Pro, but I'm considering something heftier. I have the Pangolin laptops, which I've been pretty happy with. I have their older Pangolin. For hefty, I like my Tuxedo Stellaris Slim. That, they have a newer version than what I have now, but what I have is an AMD Ryzen 7 8845HX, an NVIDIA 4070, 96 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, and a 2 terabyte NVMe, and I can fit a second NVMe in there if I want. It has an AMD APU and an NVIDIA GPU, and I can turn the NVIDIA GPU off if I want and just run all AMD, and then when I want, turn the NVIDIA back on. Of course, you do have to have the NVIDIA on just to use the HDMI port in the back. Which one is that? That is the Tuxedo Computers Stellaris Slim. I can show you that. So they have the new one, which is, I think it's the Gen 6. So if we go to the 15 to 16 inch laptops, they have the Infinity Book, the Aura, the BM15 Infinity Book. Ah, yeah. Stellaris 16. That's the Intel one. Do they still have an AMD one? Okay, Infinity Book. Yeah, there we are. Stellaris 16 Gen 7. So the new one has same amount of max memory, a Ryzen 9 9955 HX or HX3D. You can fit more memory in the Intel one, just so you know. But it's actually really well designed. It's a nice metal chassis. You can also have them silk screen your own custom logo onto it, like they did on the back of my laptop. So if anyone looks at my laptop, that's not a sticker. That was from the factory. And they even put my logo on the super key as well. So the nice thing about that laptop is, if anyone ever takes that laptop, that is so customized that if anyone knows me and my logo and looks at the laptop, they're gonna be like, that's not your laptop, buddy. Is Ubiquity the best for home Wi-Fi? I got a 2-story apartment. Really, with a 2-story apartment, as long as you put it at the highest level and point down in a central location, it should be fine.
Adam Dorr is now chilling in the lab.
I mean, Unify will be more than enough. Your thoughts on data centers? They exist. What's up, Wild Swag? I've been enjoying MikroTik for a while. I prefer it over Ubiquity for sure. I hear good things about MikroTik, but I'm getting some Aruba kit in the coming month at work. Yeah, I like Aruba. They're good stuff. Thoughts on identity and access management route career chief? It's a worthwhile one. There's plenty of IAM jobs around right now. I have a few friends in IAM. They're great. The human needs a good password manager. Proton Pass, disclaimer, yes, I am affiliated with them, but Proton Pass is seriously my all-time favorite personal password manager that has the ability to do email aliasing. I do have links in the bio if you do want to use Proton and everything. It is free. They do have a free version. They have a paid-for version that has even more features. And if you do decide to pay for it, please use the link in my bio to help support the channel. But Proton Pass, hands down, my most #1 favorite password manager. I also like Bitwarden. Bitwarden works pretty well. I use them too. And I also use KeePass XC for my offline passwords. But Proton is my preferred personal password manager. But yeah, I use Bitwarden too, but I have different password vaults and services for different reasons. So like, you'll have business in one, personal in another, and then I have my really sensitive stuff that needs to stay offline in
Pointless_dragons is now chilling in the lab.
Thank you for the follow. Advice for cyber: never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. That's a good piece of advice. What are your thoughts on the RHCSA certification? I haven't ever really seen anybody ask for Red Hat certified system administrator or things like that. It's one of those certifications that, while it can't hurt, the most of the jobs that I've come across don't really care about it. It might be, oh, that's nice, but it's not, I haven't seen anyone really specifically call out for it or that. It might help in a more Linux-specific role, but I haven't seen that come up in any of my job searches. Sure is not useful if it isn't community. Yeah. Keep hearing used enterprise storage market is so hot right now. You guys looking at anything interesting in that space? The used enterprise storage market, I think a lot of us are trying to just get U.2 and other drives like that, because drives are getting really expensive. Spinning Rust has gotten expensive and is all the rage right now. I updated Debian 13 and now I don't have internet and the info I can't find isn't clear. Any advice? It's really hard to say without knowing your network card and all that other stuff. The best thing I can really tell you to do is look up your network card and just try doing some troubleshooting and back and forth. Documentation may not be extremely clear, but hey, when you run into errors like this, that's one of the best times to roll up your sleeves and start learning some new things. That's the time I learn a lot of my new exciting knowledge. If appropriate, can you share some of what you do as a security engineer? So what I do in my job is I walk up to developers with a whip and I crack it at them every time they make a security issue. No, I'm kidding. That would be my dream job. No, most of what I'm doing in my day job right now is I'm actually helping some of the architects shift left on the security of things, so that way we can build the CI/CD pipelines that have these security checks in place. The company that I'm at is a little bit immature. They're also migrating from one version control system to another, just one vendor to another. It's all Git, but so I'm helping them set up Palo Alto Cortex as part of some other things like Trivy, SonarCube, GitHub security, Dependabot, things like that, getting that rolled out. And that's a lot of what my day is. I'm also the CrowdStrike SME, basically, from what I've been told. So I've been, as a senior security engineer, I technically have 2 people underneath me. I'm not really managing. We're just in a team. We're all working together on the same things. One deals with more of the endpoints day-to-day. The other one is from a developer background, so I'm working more closely with them on the stuff to shift left with. I'm also helping them evaluate different processes and procedures with the things that are going on based on my background. So that way we can have a good path moving forward. Hey, Princess French, how's it going, buddy? How you been? RHCSA is good for gov. That makes sense. Government really loves their certifications, from what I've seen. Trivy, SonarCube, that's container security. Yeah, there's a few different things. There's Cortex, there's also dealing with Qualys, there's dealing with we're dealing with a lot of different things. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that go into play. Where, like, no joke, if I stay at this company, I told them that I can see this project lasting like 2, 3, 4 years. It's a lot of work that we have to do to modernize things. Exactly the same. Oh, no, thank you. You just got off a 2-year ban. How the hell did you get banned for 2 years? You know what the problem is? You're just so bad. That's your problem. 2 years, damn. But if I remember, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you have an announcement that you have a kid coming, if I'm not mistaken? I could have sworn I saw some on IG about that. If I'm not mistaken, then congratulations, Mazel Tov on that aspect. But 2 years of a ban, damn. What are your thoughts on the new edge migration trend for businesses? Well, I think they're edging a lot. What do you mean by the edge migration trend? I'm trying to understand, like, you talking about Microsoft Edge, you talking about Network Edge, you talking about, executives just staring at each other in a room while after doing rails of white powder, just edging each other? Like, what kind of edge are we talking about? Let me see. Proton Pass very good. Recently switched over to them. Yeah. Learning curve for MikroTik is difficult if you're not a networking person before. Yeah, that is true with a lot of the higher end or more devoted networking equipment, is that they generally are designed for people that have networking in mind already. Otherwise, yeah, it's not the same thing as like a Netgear and a TP-Link where you just plug it in and you go. Might switch to, but I already do email with them, trying to avoid all eggs in one basket situation. No, I get that, because I use Proton as well. You can at least export your databases from Proton. So there's that at least. I'm interested in the AppSec or ProdSec route for career work. Are you familiar with this area, and is there any advice you'd recommend? I'm doing more of the AppSec side of things in CI/CD stuff. A lot of it would be mostly learning the different routes of application security for that. Like, of course, there's the security at the code level itself, you know, with, you know, doing things properly, things like that. But there's the setting up the DevOps, DevSecOps pipelines to analyze all of that, get that stuff signed, certified, and packaged with as little manual intervention as possible. Like, one of the big issues we're having is developers, we're trying to figure out, okay, so how do we get these executables signed, and then so they can actually work with air lockers we were talking about earlier, because we have to grab the hashes and things like that. But then conversely, let's say there is a version of the software that is found to be malicious. How would we go about blocking that? And we figured that we can probably pull that information from those apps when generated and put that into CrowdStrike and block that app. So there's things like that. A lot of it, yeah, it basically comes down to just learning the core concepts and principles around those things. But, you know, like, AppSec is, just like many parts of cybersecurity, or pretty much every part, a deep rabbit hole you can go down. I was gonna say, Mercurial to get... You wear lots of hats. Yep, that's basically how I've been my entire career. Get used to it after the MSP life. Certifications are a good way to prove that they tried to do their due diligence. yes and no, but I've also met a lot of people that have just vomited knowledge onto a test and didn't remember anything about it. The biggest example that I had was there was one person that I knew that,
Ninja Mason 22 is now chilling in the lab.
thank you for the follow, Ninja Mason. There was a person that I knew to prove the point that certifications are not always the gold standard that people think they are. I knew a person that passed the CISSP certification, all right? A lot of people out there know the CISSP is a very tough exam. I took it. It's very tough, okay? I don't pass certifications without me understanding the core material underneath it. That's just how it is. I can pass tests without, actually understanding it and vomit knowledge. But the problem is, this individual, I remember, got their CISSP, was working with me. And I forgot what the specific thing I was talking about. I think we were talking about like principle of least privilege and other concepts when we were talking about giving users access. And I remember looking at them when they're like, well, like that. And I looked at them and I was like, I know for damn well sure the thing we're talking about right now that you're having a hard time grasping was in the CISSP textbook that we studied before we took our test. And I looked at them and they're like, well, and they're like, I don't remember it. And I remember literally saying to them, this is in your textbook. You just passed this test last month. How do you not know this? This wasn't like some obscure thing. It was like principle of least privilege. And I think another thing was, I forgot what the specifics were, but it was several things that I was like, dude, all of these I know were in the CISSP certification. To the point, I remember I went to my manager and I was like, I'm worried about this guy because he passed CISSP, couldn't remember several parts of it. He just passed the CISSP like last week or two, couldn't remember these concepts that were in the textbook. And I'm not saying that as like,
Beyond one CSS is now chilling in the lab.
You got to remember the CISSP way. It was a situation of the CISSP happened to be telling you about things that we knew basically in cybersecurity that you should know. I forgot what the specifics were. It was like principal least privilege and something else. That's going to bother me. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and have a nightmare and be like, it was this. Are you using Jenkins or any tools that helps with automating CI/CD? I use GitHub Actions for a lot of it. If you actually look at my GitHub portfolio, you'll actually find that there's a .github folder in quite a few of those projects. Those have my YAML files for my automations for Dependabot and Trivy and Sneak and a bunch of other tools to check the security, package up the Docker. So like a lot of my programs that I have that build a Docker, for example, I actually have it as part of the CI/CD, build the Docker to be deployed to the GitHub container repository, so you can actually download that Docker from the GHCR for AMD and x86, for x86 and ARM CPUs, so you don't have to build it. You can just grab it and then run it. And my CI/CD builds a lot of that. So I use GitHub Actions for a lot of that. My last job I used Jenkins, but I didn't really manage that part of it. I'm just going to put this out there for anyone that's in the chat. If you're going to ask me multiple times the same question over and over, I'm probably not going to answer your question. Be patient. Don't spam. There's other people. I'm on 4 platforms here, fam. I'm not sure the chief has acknowledged me. I'm pretty sure I did, Bengali. Oh, I saw you came in. How you doing, buddy? Banned, try life banned on Twitch. There's a second account from back then. Wait, you got banned for life on Twitch? That's pretty hard, because I mean, I see like Hassan Piker like does things that should get him banned all the time, and he's still around. Invaluable is to train and learn on configuring Cisco Firepower 1010. I've never used Cisco Firepower, if that tells you anything. So, if you're not necessarily in a job that is specifically using Cisco Firepower and things like that, it's not really that important. The problem that a lot of people, businesses specifically, have is they have this perverse thinking that vendors, specific vendor products, are skills. Oh, sorry, you only know CrowdStrike? Well, we need SentinelOne experience or Microsoft Windows Defender EDR. It's the same shit, different vendor, different concepts. Focus on the conceptual knowledge is what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter if you're using this vendor or that vendor to do this core conceptual technological approach. Learn the basic concepts of it, and you can apply that to any vendor. I started my MSP career doing Sophos firewalls and Sophos antivirus. Since then, I mean, I also was doing ESET too, but since then, I've done WatchGuards, pfSense, Unify. I've done Cisco. There's even been a Palo Alto and a Juniper thrown in there once in a while. I've done SonicWall. I've done, I started out with Sophos Antivirus. I've done Bitdefender Gravity Zone, CrowdStrike, Windows Defender, EDR. Learn the core conceptual knowledge, and then you can easily adapt to any vendor within a matter of a few weeks, just to understand their verbiage and their UI, UX approach. What is Proton? Well, there's two kinds of Proton. Well, there's three. Protons, in the science way. Oh, I'd make up the universe. No, but Proton is a privacy company that deals in email, VPN, password management, and a bunch of other privacy tools. They're really great for that. The other Proton is made by Valve. That is an open source software that has a suite of tools to be a compatibility layer between Windows applications and Linux computing. So you can do gaming on Linux with Windows applications using Proton without having to rewrite the entire application. Do you know of any good password manager that allows of decryption of the DB by the use of a FIDO key? I mean, Proton Pass and Bitwarden all support FIDO login for those things. Now, as far as decrypting via FIDO key for a hardware approach, that I'm not sure of in terms of Bitwarden and Proton. However, I do know that KeyPass XC has the ability. I haven't really tried this yet, but if I recall, a friend of mine told me it has the capability to do something called HOTP, not TOTP, hardware one-time passcode. So basically, you can use your security key, not in a FIDO sense, to decrypt your database offline. I have not tried this, so I have no opinions or feedback on this approach. I know it exists. Oh yeah, you just did that. Oh yeah, definitely not proof of knowledge, just that the government tried to make sure they knew what they knew in a reproducible, formal way. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. Opinion on Hack the Box Academy. I haven't really done their academy stuff, Was it Try Hack Me or Hack the Box that got into that controversy, though? Hold on. Yeah, Try Hack Me was the one that had the controversy. Hack the Box is fine. Try Hack Me is kind of, pissed me off with their new attempts with AI pen testing by using data of their Try Hack Me users, allegedly. The same for one of my projects, super convenient. It's public on GitHub, and I'm really happy with how the GitHub Actions and Dependabot worked out. Yep. It's actually one of the reasons why I got hired for my most recent job was they looked at my GitHub portfolio and they saw that I knew how to do all this stuff. That's why I got thrown into the CI/CD stuff. Man, spam, that's best strat. Well, he's Hassan. Yeah, Hassan Piker. I mean, it blows me away how much of the stuff that guy has said and done on stream and still not been appropriately punished. And I'm not saying this as any political bent or anything. There's been things that I've seen come across various news and other content that I see that I'm like, how the hell is he, you know, still okay with getting away with this? I don't know. I don't watch this stuff, I just know he exists. Actually, not familiar with Dependabot. My scanning is done with SemGrep and Trivia and GitHub workflows. Would you recommend using Dependabot in mine? Dependabot I recommend regardless. So Dependabot, what it does... Here, we can actually show this in my GitHub. Let me open up my repos. So we'll open up one of my projects. We'll just open up Stream Demon. Okay? So what Dependabot does... I have to do some maintenance and stuff like that. So if you see, all of these things are opened by Dependabot. So what it's doing is it's going through and it's actually seeing what versions of software are old in my projects. So it can actually open up a pull request. You can set it to do that, to automatically create a new pull request to update the versions. So it does this PR over here. And it's like, hey, Boto 3, which is Amazon Web Services SDK for all their features, which was part of the feature I needed for Amazon Key Management System, has got a version to bump it from 1.4 to 1.42 to 39 to 1.4283. Okay? It's got these commits over here, all that, and then, my GitHub Actions is a dependency review over here, and then as we can see, there's a review that's required over here, but it looks like one of those checks is failing. Invalid sarf. Okay, so I'm going to have to figure that out. That's an unrelated issue. But anyway... What Dependabot does is basically it stays on top of my projects, and once a week we'll scan those projects to see, is there any dependencies that are old? So you can see this in a lot of my different projects here. So let me go into... What's another project? We'll just go to Star Demon here. So you can see .github folder over here. So if you see, there's a Dependabot YAML file over here. So from here, I have it set to do all those settings in here. You can also set that up in your settings under... hold on. Where was it? Hold on. Actions. Oh. No. There was an option to just set up Dependabot. It's been a while since I've set this up in here. Branches. But the point being is that there is somewhere in here you can set up Dependabot. Maybe because I already set it up. It's been a while. Anyway, there is a whole Dependabot setup over here that you can easily configure this to do anything you need. Oh, we're just talking about features. for GitHub. I like how Chief didn't ask how you get banned for life. All I'm going to say was a mod of Twitch itself. I got hit in a crossfire and they refused to unban me because the mod refuses to admit he made a mistake when he was fighting someone else. They got me. Oof. What are good certs for DevOps Cloud? CCSP. CCSP is probably, I would say, one of the better cloud certs, but that's up there with CISSP. CCSP is the cloud version, Cloud Certified Security Practitioner. Cloud Certified Security Practitioner. It's a lot smaller. There's 70% overlap with CISSP, but you can only get it after you've had 5 years of field experience, 4 years if you've had a 4-year degree. But there isn't a lot of... There's a few certs for like DevOps and stuff like that, but I think a lot of people put way too much weight in certs because they don't really change all that much in terms of your hiring and all that. I mean, I made I made it through most of my career without getting a single cert. My first cert was a CISSP. You make good money without a degree? Yes. Me personally, I'm doing a lot better than a lot of my friends that even have degrees. Of course, it's not the easiest path to take. I am going for my bachelor's degree now, just to check that box. I'm 2/3 done with WGU for my bachelor's, having started only in January, so I'm 2/3 done in one semester. I've got 2 more classes I want to knock out this semester, and then after that, I should have around like 9 or 10, and I should be able to get my bachelor's this year. My goal is to have it all done by December. But yeah. I make pretty good money, especially for the Midwest. I know some people would say you're only making that and then look at California money, but when you consider how much it is out here, I mean, making about 140. So, what is it? The Midwest average income. Let's see, the U.S. median salary is $64,220 per year. And in the Midwest, I don't know if I can find a number of that. Yeah, it's about the same. 66K. I'm willing to bet 140K is more than average even for California. Oh, that's a good question. Average California salary. Yep. As of May 2026, the average annual salary in California is approximately $79,900. A median household income of $95,521. Top earners over $100,000 to $116,000 annually. But yeah, I'm doing pretty well, I think, without a degree. And I'm still not at the height of my career. What's your GitHub? Starting to lean DevOps and what to competitive in field, currently network engineer. My GitHub, Chief Geek 3D, or Chief Geeked. The link's in bio for it. I have about, 20, 30, 40 projects? I don't know, I make a lot of shit. But I made my own streaming tools, for example, for my stuff. So my go live announcements that go to Blue Sky, Mastodon, Matrix, and Discord. Whenever I'm live on Twitch, Kick, and YouTube, I made those tools. And it also runs through my local AI server for the go live announcements based on the title. And I have another automation I made for YouTube that's on GitHub, BootTube even, that posts also to all those platforms whenever I make a new post on YouTube, whether it's a short or a long form post. And also will run through the AI for the go live for the post announcement. Wait, so Dependabot automatically scans and creates pull requests with remediations. That's convenient because I was going to record myself remediating all of them. No, it does not do remediations. Dependabot merely helps you find libraries that are out of date. For the security stuff, I use GitHub security. I use Trivy for container security. And there's another platform I use called Sneak. They have a free version for open source. Here, Sneak. And I'm using Sneak Code. This is what you're looking at more if you're trying to automatically find issues in the security of your code on top of GitHub security. But this is just a SAST. This is not a DAST. You're still going to want DAST on top of it. SAST stands for Static Application Security Testing. You're also going to want to look at a DAST, a Dynamic Application Security Testing, which, to simplify it, it runs the applications and sees what it does. A static one looks at the code and says, this is the code, looks insecure, this looks insecure. Make sense? So there's a bit more to it. Any tips for the CISSP exam? I have plenty of tips. There's a YouTube video actually from, I want to say close to 2 years now, from when I passed the CISSP myself. Let me see if I can remember what I called that video. It was one of my earliest videos, so it's probably gonna be a little bit rough. Hold on. Newbie keeps compromised, must attend security events. Do you need college for IT and cybersecurity? By the way, some of y'all should check some of my old videos. There's some good stuff in here. I think it was a little earlier than that. Could have sworn I made a video about the CISSP. Oh, there we are. I knew it was here. How I passed the CISSP certification, my journey and tips to help you succeed. This was a year ago. It only had like 200 views. It was like when I was just starting to put my stuff on YouTube and everything. So this video should help you out quite a bit. It's one of my earlier videos, so it's probably a little bit rougher than my most up-to-date videos, but I did at least break it down into chapters. Background, some tools I used, the CISP study guide, the app I used, and just some general, words to help you out. You made a short of it. Well, the short was just a small piece of the longer video. Here's the thing. Almost all of my YouTube shorts and almost all of my TikToks for the past year or so were actually from YouTube videos. I very rarely nowadays create content directly for TikTok or even YouTube shorts. So you can almost guarantee when you are seeing a short or a TikTok or an IG reel, it's coming from either a YouTube video or a live stream. Because what I will do is after the stream, I will figure out the parts that I want to process, send the VOD over to Opus, and then clip a bunch of those, and then plan out up to several weeks in advance clips. How about SemGrep? I'm not familiar with that one off the top of my head. Do you plan on getting into government contracts, Chief? Hell no. I also have no official degree, but I was specifically locked out of completing one as a trans person. Oof. That's effed. Especially knowing how many trans people are my friends in this field. Like, seriously. You go to DEF CON, throw a rock, you're probably gonna hit some, you know, trans girl in the nuts. I don't know. No, seriously, there's a lot of trans people out in DEF CON. Not hating, just saying. Matter of fact. You do you, boo-boo. Makes you happy. I don't give a fuck. Like, here's how, like, just so you understand how I am as a type of person. So I am bi. I have friends that are trans. I had a friend that recently came out to me and said that they are starting the transition. You know what my response was? Now, mind you, this has been one of my best friends for years. They're in the Discord server, so some of my mods actually know who I'm talking about. And I responded back to them saying, well, what the fuck? Do you want a cookie or something? It's my way of just saying, like, dude, I really don't give a fuck. And I just told them, like, are you happy? Are you safe? Are you going through a professional with all this and this complicated journey? Cool. That's all I care about. I couldn't give a fuck otherwise. Doesn't bother me. It's your life. You do what you want. Some of my mods are even trans. I don't give a fuck. You do whatever the hell you want to do to make yourself happy. Ain't gonna bother me. That's the thing I don't understand. Like, not to get on the tirade here about the whole thing. I don't understand people that get so upset what other people do to choose to do with their bodies and their lives that has no impact on them whatsoever. Like, go get a life. I like... And I find it funny from the people that go on about how, like, the government is getting too involved in our lives, but then turn around and say the government should be involved in your bedroom and in your bathroom. I don't give a crap about that shit. Cyber is a kink. Look, I'm gonna put it this way. A lot of us people in cybersecurity were in band. And you know what? Band geeks are the freakiest motherfuckers out there. How do I know? 'Cause I was one. Gov wants to be involved in my pants. Gov wants to take your damn pants. Let's get that right. Lots of furries too. Oh yeah, there's definitely furries. Like, let me put it this way. Do not F with furries. Furries run the entire world, okay? I'm not a furry, by any means. I have plenty of friends that are furries. I don't understand that shit. I don't care. But look, whatever consenting adults choose to do, I don't give a fuck. I know it's not an entirely sexual thing, but I'm just saying I know a lot of people think it is. I just don't care, okay? The only thing I care about when it comes to my furry friends, they make some of the best badges for DEF CON. But also, do not piss off a person that's willing to spend $10,000 to $15,000 on a random fursuit, because that mother can afford a pipe bomb. That's all I'm saying. And they have the know-how. And if you think that I'm wrong there, I had a bunch of friends that were military. You know how many furries apparently were in the military? Holy shit. I apparently blew people's minds. So, I had friends in cyber that didn't even know what a furry was, and I remember several weeks before the Heritage Foundation got compromised by furries, I was telling them about furries to prepare them for DEF CON, and then they themselves had to go explain what furries were to their non-furry friends about this thing that they just learned about. Yeah. Guess who finally fixed Dish in a speaker portal? Hey! Hooray! Do I still need to upload the thing, or are we good because I sent you the PowerPoint? Also, how you doing, buddy? If they're a great dev, their genders don't matter, Chief. Pretty much. Okay, I'll upload it after the stream. But yeah, seriously. And since Jessica's here, she knows me IRL. I couldn't give a shit if you got tits or not, internal or external genitalia. If you're good at tech, that's all that I matter about. I don't give a crap about if you're a they, them, he, or she in tech. Tech is for everyone. But you better be damn good at your job and not think that I'm just criticizing you because you happen to be of a certain class, sex, race, religion, whatever. I don't give a shit. You're gonna be treated the same regardless. Exactly. I am an equal opportunity hater, okay? If I am hating on you, it will be the same kind of hate I will throw towards a Scientologist or Hare Krishna, okay? Y'all get equal hate in my books, and I just smacked my mic. Hands are E for everyone. Yeah. It was cool to meet you last year. Nice. And I run into you. I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. Like, I had a lot of people run into me, as you could know. And as long as you had a great experience meeting me, that's all that matters, because there were some rough moments when I was at DEF CON. Like, apparently I met one... Okay, so Abby, there is a person I met after you walked away, after we were drinking, that I felt so bad for, because they got to meet Chief when I was, like... We were sloshed, okay? I think any career that has a really niche skill set is open about that stuff. I think so. Let me tell you this. You can definitely let your freak flag fly over at DEF CON. When you go to DEF CON, it's a spectrum of all types of people. You can't tell who's in cyber, which is so nice. Yeah. I think one of my favorite parts about DEF CON is everyone just lets themselves go out there. You'll even see people running around in chicken suits and T-Rex outfits and people in full furry outfits and stuff. My own advice on career change from software engineer to cybersecurity. The best path for you would be AppSec, application security, learning CI/CD, DevOps, DevSecOps, and the application securing the code of that side of things. It's a big thing. There's a lot of people needing that and wanting to hire for that and cannot find developers that are qualified enough to, venture into that. You're actively pouring a beverage. My pronouns are who/cares. Yeah. I need PC help. I lost a lot after my heart attack. Who do you recommend? For what? I don't know what you're asking in terms of PC help. And who recommend for what? Saw you in 2 spots. Yeah, but won't not. Okay. Would you recommend A+ as a college student? So the CompTIA A+... I got the A+ this year, only as part of my WGU curriculum, so I've gone my entire career pretty much without the A+. Let me put it this way. It won't hurt to get it. I'm not saying you need to get it. It can help, but it definitely can't hurt. So, yeah. You seeing the hype around building cyber decks? Yeah, and the funny thing about this was, again, it was yet another instance of Chief was ahead of the trend by at least a year. Last year, I was talking about building my cyber deck, but eventually got the MNT Pocket Reform as my cyber deck. Because I was thinking about building a cyber deck 2 or 3 years ago. My MNT Pocket Reform is planning to be my cyber deck once I get the upgraded motherboard. I'm hoping. I can order that motherboard this month or next month, but it most likely will not make it in before DEF CON. Because Ramageddon drove the motherboard prices up. The motherboard that I'm looking at used to be €500. It's now €750 plus shipping to get it from Germany. Or just the 16 gigabyte version. Originally I was looking at a 32 gigabyte version that was €750. They don't even offer that version anymore because 32 gigabytes of RAM is too expensive right now. Hey Chief, can you put a 24-hour clock on your stream and just have it like 2 hours ahead just to make people think they're late? Okay, I totally gotta do that sometime. Or at least put a clock up here. What made you get passionate about IT or get you into computer science earlier in your life? My dad, was in tech growing up, so I'm second-gen geek. My dad actually worked on the Hubble Space Telescope. He did the, coding for the shutters in Fortran with 10,000 lines, so he did that when he was in the Air Force. So I'm kind of second-gen geek. So I grew up with like a Windows 95 computer in my room, and my dad even ran 10100 Ethernet over Cat5 back in the day. We had wireless internet. My dad had the Cat5 wired throughout the house. 5, not 5E. We later on had to upgrade to 5E in high school. But 5, no, he did. I think he did put 5E. Either way, we had 5E at some point, but we had 5. He actually wired 2 Ethernet ports in like every room, because back in the day we had our IBM laptops that had the PCM CIA cards where you didn't have wireless built into your laptop. You didn't even have Ethernet built into your laptop. You had a dial-up modem at best, and most of the time you still didn't have that. So you had a PCM CIA card, then you had to plug in the Ethernet cord, or, you know, the PCM CIA for wireless, and then go from room to room. Well, at the time, wireless A was wireless B was meh. And then it wasn't until wireless G that we really cared about it. So, I mean, we had wireless B, but you ended up still jacking into Ethernet because it was 11 megabit per second max versus 100 megabit per second. And when you're browsing, on average, around 3 to 4 megabits per second, it was a huge difference. Terry A. Davis vibes incoming. I want to see a cyber deck in one of those ramen cookers. But the hype seems to be more around the aesthetic. How cool will it look? I think mine will look really cool. Mine's an anodized aluminum purple case with mechanical keys and everything. I think mine will be one of the nicer looking ones, and it has a cell modem in there. And the new motherboard will have me have a better wireless card, which is the main issue we had. Then I'll have a separate backplate, and then I'll need to get some additional antennas. I paid near $500 for 32 gigabyte DDR5, 6,000 mega transfers of RAM. The market is atrocious. Oh yeah. Christ, we didn't have interwebs until I was in high school. Oof. Yeah, the internet situation is kind of interesting when you go into that. Yeah, I grew up having internet and everything. So the funny story about like how long I had internet access was, I've had internet access long enough that I remember going through puberty and looking up what every young boy wants to look up. Boobs. And there was actually the issue back in the day, because your images, when you were loading them, would come in line by line. You'd sit there for like a minute or two watching this image load in line by line. So what a lot of people would do is troll you. They'd send you an image, renders in at the top, you're like, oh, there's this beautiful woman, long hair, you start seeing the head render, and then it gets down to like into the shoulders, like, oh, she's wearing a bikini, and then it'll be like, you know, like they'll like Photoshop in like Cookie Monster in the middle of the way. You know, like, just mess with you. Like, so you've spent minutes downloading this image, and you've just gone like, ah! Waste. Yeah, that troll's still around. Yeah. It's a thing. Yeah, there was that was a whole thing. Well, anyway, what I was getting down with this story was back in the day, I was an entrepreneurial little fucker, and I realized at a young age, sex sells. Well, I was a young man with access to the internet and a father who had an IT company that decided, oh, we don't need a regular inkjet printer in the house. Those are too expensive to, get ink cartridges. So we're going to put a Xerox Phaser 8400B. If you're not familiar with this guy, allow me to show you what this printer was. So this was a Mac Daddy of a printer back in the day, all right? This was a color solid ink printer, solid ink. So imagine each of your cartridges were like these wax kind of blocks of magenta, cyan, and yellow, and black. So you had the 4 cartridges. So, you had these sticks. And that was why my dad got this. It was cheaper to run this. And then it was, we had a print server, everything in the house. Like, this was early 2000s. 24 pages per minute. Color. Now, what was the amazing thing about this printer? Well, it had this ability to make some of the highest quality color pictures you could imagine without needing photo quality paper. Like, those pictures came out just beautifully glossy. Oh, you didn't know there was solid ink? Oh, it was great. The waste you could actually use as crayons, too. So, when it was all done, I had crayons. All right, anyway. Yeah, there was a little tray, so, on the other side over here, you could pop it out and then pull out the waste tray right next to the maintenance kit. Anyway, so the photos on this were ridiculously high quality. Like I said, young boy, entrepreneurial, realizing my classmates, men particularly, now coming of age men, shall we say, they want to look at boobs too, but none of them really have access to internet. And if they do, it's a shared family computer, so they can't just go into the living room and go look up the things they want and possibly get trolled. Because Sports Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition may have just been a troll photo, as we had discussed. Anyway, I figured out, I got pictures of Carmen Electra and all these different, women you could imagine. All the ones that I knew that my classmates were into. And I was I had an accordion of all these pictures. And I was selling them $1 a picture, all that. This is all alongside my other side hustle, which was burning mix CDs for all these couples, because nobody apparently knew how to burn discs. And I even offered, upgrades oh, would you like your label light scribed? Any messages? Or do you need to have that secretly delivered to her locker for you? Things like that. So anyway, I had this business basically selling Playboy and such images to underage kids and burning discs. I was getting off Kazaa and LimeWire and Winamax and all this stuff. This scheme had been going on for I think it was 2 years until I got caught. And I got caught at school. And when my mom had to go to speak to the principal, she basically said she didn't know whether she was pissed off at me or proud of me for figuring out how to do something like that. When I explained it to her, no, I wasn't just handing out the pictures, I was selling them. And she's like, how much money were you making a week? And I was like, I'd be making about $50 to $100 a week. And she's like, the fuck? She genuinely did not know whether to be proud of me, smack me upside the head, and say, It was one of those, yeah. It was hilarious kind of situation. But yeah, that Xerox Phaser 8400B made me so much money. I've seen those printers in schools, but it's like taller. Well, usually in school, the printers were like proper lasers, so they'd be like, usually it's like the 5Ls with the black toner. My friend is trying to teach me pen testing, but she cannot get her VirtualBox VMs working. Okay. I mean, if you can't get your VirtualBox VMs working, I mean, that could be your computer. That could be a lot of things, but also, I'm not the biggest fan of VirtualBox. I know it's a great entry point if you're not using Type 1 hypervisors, but I had issues with VirtualBox. Listen, kid, this ink is so thick you'd think it was scratch and sniff. Proxmox for the win. Yeah. Proxmox is pretty good. I need to set up a Proxmox box eventually, but I got so many other things I need to build. Maybe one of these days, Lenovo, who is mutuals with me on TikTok, will send me some computers for me to lab up. I don't know. I'm kind of afraid of, like, going up to companies and being like, yeah, I'm this big creator, send me free shit. I don't like doing that. Even though some companies do. I just don't like being that dude. But, yeah. So, I gotta figure out what's going on with this Wardriver guy over here. I'll tinker with that throughout this week. And then, we gotta set up the, Wiz Mesh tags for the dogs. So the dogs will have their vests set up soon for when I go, start doing the project on GPS tracking your dogs, both in the city and, when you're hiking and stuff. That should be fun. So I got a couple of conventions to go to, by the way. So this month, if you happen to be in the area of Dayton, Ohio, next weekend is Hamvention. I'm planning to be there. At least for Friday, maybe also Saturday. We'll see how I feel. The week after that is a B-Sides, I think, in Dayton? I have to check when that is. Then the following month after that, there's a couple of conventions I have to go to. Then in August, there's a couple more conventions. You know about those ones, B-Sides Las Vegas and DEF CON 34. And then, what is it, 2 or 3 months after that, we have GurCon, and that should be the end of the year. But yeah. Anyway, it is getting a little bit late here. So it's about 10:30 right now. So yeah, thank you all for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't already, follow me on all of my socials. The links are in the chat. If you don't see them, they are in the bio. They are in the links in bio for all of you. Yeah, it's great hanging out with all of you. How to get involved with these premium competitions like DEF CON. DEF CON posts their competitions online many months before they actually go out. DEF CON's a conference that just happens to have CTFs and stuff. But yeah, we'll chat more. My next official scheduled stream is Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I may be on again tomorrow. You know how it is. I still got to catch up on all this content that we have in the stream. And today was mostly just tinkering with different things. But yeah, so love you all. Stay safe. Happy hacking. If you're over on Twitch, stick around for the raid. Otherwise, I will see you all later. Love you all. Stay safe. Follow me on all the platforms. Join the Discord. Join the Matrix server. We got a great community on both of those. Follow me on Blue Sky, Mastodon. Follow the YouTube. That's where most of the videos mainly go. Twitch, Kick, TikTok, Instagram, all the places. Love you all. Stay safe. Happy hacking. And I will see you all later.